2022 looks to be an amazing year for gaming. With all of these scheduled and expected release dates for a year, 2022 could possibly even be the best year in gaming ever. Throughout the course of the next few months, the gaming picture of 2022 is going to come into focus a little better with concrete dates and new announcements. And this leads us to the matter at hand, and that is a list of the most anticipated games of 2022. Now, this list isn't going to include the typical games you're going to find on every list like God of War Ragnarok, Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid Prime 4, or Starfield, because everyone is already anticipating these games. And with that in mind, we curated a list of the top 10 games expected in 2022 that are mostly flying under the radar, with some exceptions of course. Now here is games 10 to 6 in the first part of our most anticipated games of 2022 in order. Coming in at number 10 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, and out of all of the games on this list, TMNT has the best chance at being the game that I play the least. Don't get me wrong, I'm very excited for this game as it's one of our most anticipated games of the year, but obviously there is a concern for depth, which is why it falls to the bottom of this list. The reason that this game is so high on the list is because there is so much nostalgia tied to this title for me and many other gamers. And the good news is that this game is being developed by Tribute Games, but more importantly, it's being published by .mu. My concern for Shredder's Revenge is that the game is going to lack depth and will be fun for about an hour. The most recent comparable is Streets of Rage 4, which is another classic revival. Streets of Rage 4 art style took a more updated and modern approach, whereas Shredder's Revenge looks to be a more pixel-faithful revival. TMNT never had the deepest storyline, but hopefully an above-average plot and some modern game systems like upgrade trees would be a very welcome addition. Now, both do seem very unlikely, but we still know very little about this game. Moving on to number 9, and one of the first games to be released out of all of the games on our most anticipated list is the PlayStation exclusive Sifu. Sifu is being developed by Slowclap, who is the studio behind the 2017 martial art game Absolver. And while the game didn't review overly well, most did agree that the combat system was visceral but ultimately never reached the potential that it should have. And hopefully, with some experience under their belts and 5 years since the release of Absolver, Slowclap will be able to deliver a fantastic experience that doesn't feel unfinished. Sifu looks to be more than just a visceral combat game, as it features an aging and an upgrade system upon death, and instead of the game being over, you age exponentially, but also you learn new skills as you age, and this combination of aging and leveling up could lead to a very fun gameplay loop. Sifu hits the PlayStation system on February 8th at a reduced price, which does give me a bit of concern that it won't be a full game. I do appreciate a reduced price, but hopefully this is not an indication of length or quality. Coming in at number 8 is Marvel's Midnight Suns. Have you been waiting for a true sequel to XCOM 2? Well, the bad news is that you will likely have to wait at least another 5 years, but the good news is that Firaxis is now making a new turn-based tactics game based on the Marvel Universe. The biggest headline is that this time around, the combat system is based around a card system, which will likely push away many, but as someone who enjoys card-based games, this change is very welcome. On top of being developed by one of the best strategy studios around, Marvel's Midnight Suns features a roster of superheroes unrivaled in video games, from the Avengers to the X-Men and many others. Still not convinced? Marvel's Midnight Suns has you play as the Hunter, a fully customizable and original superhero, and this is a pretty big thing for Marvel and their very protected IP to allow something like this to happen. It's hard to see this game not being a massive critical success upon release. The big question is, will commercial success follow, even with the card-based system? Considering Marvel's Midnight Suns is due out in March, the studio has gone fairly silent since its reveal in the summer of 21. The only reason I'm fairly confident that Marvel's Midnight Suns will release in March is because 2K is a publicly traded company, and their fiscal quarter does end on March 31st, and delaying the game would likely have some negative effects from their shareholders, most notably a drop in share price, since a portion of the projected sales for the quarter would be coming from a high-profile Marvel game. Coming in at number 7 is definitely a game that is not flying under the radar, and that is Hollow Knight Silksong. Hollow Knight Silksong is fairly low on this list for a few reasons. The first is that it still seems unlikely that this game is going to be released in 2022. Sure, Silksong has been in development in some form or another since 2017, but there is just such a minuscule amount of concrete information about the game right now, and just looking at their website blog, their last official post was back in 2019, which was before the pandemic, which is a time that none of us can remember. Hollow Knight Silksong is a full-fledged sequel to the original, but it also features a completely different character that appeared in the first game, but as a difficult mini-boss, the Hornet. What most people forget is that Team Cherry, the South Australian developers behind the Hollow Knight series, are only composed of a handful of people. At the start of the development, the team was only 3 people and might be slightly more now. Silksong gives me vibes of No Man's Sky in the sense that the people are putting this game on a very high pedestal based on the quality of the first game and how long the hype has been building since it was first announced in February of 2019. Team Cherry has also only created 1 game so far, and the chances are very high that this game won't live up to the hype and anticipation that people are creating for Silksong. Hollow Knight Silksong features a completely new world to explore with all new game mechanics thanks to a new character. Silksong also features crafting in some variety as well as quests that will task you with hunting down rare beasts, ancient mysteries, and lost treasures. And apparently, once you finish the game, you will unlock a new mode called Silksong mode that puts a spin on the game with unique and challenging experiences according to their official description. At around 30 to 40 hours to complete the original, having a new game plus mode that drastically changes the mechanics of the game would provide very deep value. Coming in at number 6 is Cuphead: The Delicious Last Course. And has it been too long for Cuphead? By the time Cuphead: The Delicious Last Course gets released at the end of June, fingers crossed, it will have been almost 5 years since the release of the trailblazing original game. Cuphead was one of the few shining stars of the Xbox One era and did extremely well for Studio MDHR. The success of the original game was so high that it got ported to the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, and even has a Netflix show currently in development with Wayne Brady starring as King Dice and is slated for spring 2022. The Netflix show makes me fully believe that Cuphead: The Delicious Last Course will hit its target release date of June because there is synergy going on with the Netflix show as each entity will bring more attention to the other. Cuphead was released on September 29, 2017, and within 2 weeks had sold over 1 million copies. And keep in mind, this is an indie game that was released exclusively for a failing console at the time that hadn't yet fully turned the ship around. Cuphead was a tough-as-nails platformer with excellent boss fights, wonderful audio score, and obviously the hand-drawn art style that captured everyone's attention. According to VentureBeat, at the time of launch on the PlayStation 4 in 2020, Cuphead had sold more than 6 million copies, and releasing on a system with well over 100 million users, that likely would have been boosted by at least 1 or 2 million. There isn't much we know about Cuphead: The Delicious Last Course as of yet. Will there be enough changes to make people happy? If Studio MDHR just delivers more of the same, will that be enough to sell well and score high? On the surface, even if you just compare the original trailer for the DLC that was released back in 2019 to the trailer that was revealed at the Game Awards 2021, showing the exact same levels, the difference is night and day. These scenes are much more lively and look more like a fully finished version of Cuphead as opposed to an early prototype, which is what the original trailer looks like in hindsight. Cuphead: The Delicious Last Course is not an Xbox exclusive this time around, which does bode well for greater success right out of the door with a greater potential audience. But will it be able to succeed by doing what made the first game a massive success? And only time will tell. That's it for the first part of our list of the most anticipated games of 2022. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, dropping a like, and we will see you in the next one.